Hi everyone, welcome back to the journey of now. We've had a long enough break, I think. I thought this week would be a good time to just chat about the stuff that's been coming up within clients, within ourselves, and just just the stuff that we've also been feeling in the collective space. And we'll take it from there.
Yeah, it's been interesting because we've had a couple of topics and ideas to share, and it's just playing around with and feeling into which one would meet most of us where we are at.
The kids were on holiday for about a month, and then we had my mom over, and we had all of these very triggering things that were happening, and very intense sort of lessons and layers of things that were coming off. And amidst that, we were recording podcasts because it was okay, we need to stay on schedule, we need to do all these things. And what ended up happening was when I was editing it and listening to it back, it was whoa, 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 whoa. I was speaking from a very raw space. And it's not to say that I won't ever share things like that. It was just, is it necessary? Because there's a difference between sharing yourself and being seen and being vulnerable, but then just exposing yourself. I think that's ultimately where the discernment comes in. And so we thought, you know what, let's just let things settle for a little bit and record again, and then we'll see how it goes, because otherwise I'm going to sound like a
Conversations we had were fire.
Yeah, just look at it. I think some of the things I touched on, I don't know if I'm ready to speak to all of those things and have it be out there, because
it was a lot.
I think it's fine if I'm speaking to you about it and to our close circle of friends, but having things be out there on the internet and so it's a different story, and I will get there, but for right now, I think with those specific things, we're still in the waters of processing it, and we will talk about it, and that is fine. And that's ultimately what discernment is. And that's the topic that we're going to be diving deeper in today, which is trusting yourself and learning to trust yourself. And discernment is ultimately one of the biggest tools for learning to trust yourself. And it's such a double-edged sword with learning to trust yourself and discernment, because you really need to be able to discern with people and situations so that you can trust yourself more. But you only learn to trust yourself more with discernment. So it goes. So, I think one of the things that's been pretty, and I think losing friends to an extent, there's a grieving process that comes with it, and to some extent I think that some friendships are even deeper and more intimate than our romantic relationships, and when those friendships fall away, it is very painful. So we both have had processes where a lot of our friends have fallen away the deeper we've gone into relationship with ourselves, and we've been more vocal about our views and how we do things and all the things, and it comes with the territory,
I think it's a space that most people end up entering into, and it's not necessarily just knowing yourself. It's you get to a point where you're not as masked, and you're not as focused on the different filters that will maybe facilitate more acceptance or meeting those social norms and standards, because that's such a tiring process. And going back to where the person that I maybe once was 10 years ago or so, where I used to be really a socialite, and I used to love going out and love speaking to many people, and just the entire persona that I had built up, which would be socially acceptable and embraced
Like the life of the party, I remember, like
Sure,
we'd go out and everybody knew you, and you were friends with everyone, and like
you know how tiring that was.
yeah, I can imagine.
And no offense to any of the, it was a lot of people, to all the people that we shared time on that journey, but damn it was tiring. It was really tiring to facilitate that persona, because like I can tell you, like, even just most of the conversations were, hey, how you doing, man? Ah, good, and you? Awesome. How's like very light,
so it's
very
like
superficial.
small talk.
Oh,
Can I tell you
the bane
just
of my existence
how
nowadays.
much I hate small talk? I don't want to do small talk. Like, I want to know who you are. I want to know where you come from. I want to know like your deepest traumas. Tell me about what's going on in your space. But like, this is why I think when someone's like, oh, how are you? Be careful. Because, and it goes both ways. Like, are you able to actually hold how someone is? And if not, then just don't ask. Just so back to the conversation at hand. It's just a thing within like the friendships. Like, look, I had a lot of fun when we were younger. We were able to do all of that, which is a part of, I think, like anyone's development. Yeah. But for myself, I'm quite introverted, and I'm very much a homebody, which was not how I was when I was in varsity at all. So I was out just as much as you were. We had our friend group, and I was always drinking. We were partying. We were having fun, as it goes. When it comes to being able to trust yourself with people and vulnerability and expressing yourself, it also comes with the ability to be able to trust yourself, to trust that even if that person doesn't like that version of you or doesn't understand that, then that's okay.
Yeah.
And that comes with that. I mean, that only came much later on in my journey. But I mean, even in the last 2-3 years, we've had very intense lessons with friendships and discernment, because what I have done and what I'm still learning not to do is something called positive projection, where just because you think in a certain way, you project positively onto people. And then
not even just that, you assume that person is going to follow the same principles, adhere to the boundaries that you have cultivated within yourself that are fairly reasonable, respectable, and benefit all parties involved.
Yeah. And this is where it actually becomes very dangerous. Yeah. And we all have a level of cognitive dissonance within us. And this is why you need to be able to develop a relationship with your intuition and your gut, because it's going to speak to you before your mind or what your heart and your feelings is telling you. Because what tends to happen is that especially in more spiritual communities or whatever else, you think that you have found your people, then you open yourself and you are your full self. You don't hold anything back, and you put people in places where they haven't earned their right to be there yet.
Yep.
And
how many times have you done that? And you put them in a place. You don't just put them in any place. You put them in a place of power.
Oh my gosh! And it's such a tender spot in your heart. If I think about the places that I've put people, if my kids and you guys are on the innermost circle of my heart, okay, then I would put them sort of just outside of that. That's a space that's reserved for. So this is why it's important to have discernment and trust within yourself, because it's a thing of this is what I do now, which is wait and see. Because what I've seen is that people are going to show you who they are the first time. And it is up to you to believe them or not, and then to stay and stick around for more mistreatment or whatever it is. Because what I believe is that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's why wait and see. I can be friends with you, but if you're going to treat waiters and waitresses and people who are working in the service industry like shit, then I don't know if that's someone that I'd like to place in that innermost circle of my space. And it's not a thing where I'm like judging and I'm waiting for you to fail and waiting for you to disappoint me. But at the end of the day, like, you have to be able to guard your heart. That is such a special place, you know? And it's reserved for people who have that level of reciprocity. Friendships and relationships are not a space where you have to audition for love and you have to manipulate for love. And if those are things that you feel that you have to do within the relationships that you have, then I invite you to question if those are actually, how do I say this? If those are actually the types of relationships that you want, or
are there relationships though? Can you actually quantify that as a relationship? Can you quantify that as a... Because my understanding is in any relationship, be it romantic or just a kinship or friendship or partnership, it is where two independent parties, individuals, are willing to choose to be part of one another's lives.
Sure.
And to fully embrace and accept the uniqueness of each opposite party and have their own uniqueness embraced by that party.
But you see, there's another assumption, because we assume that people think that way. And a lot of people think like this, where it's like, I will use you and you will use me and there will be an equal exchange. Is that a relationship or is that a transaction? And is your relationship...
It honestly seems just like a business. It just seems like a business relationship. Even that isn't just that.
Yeah, so then my question is ultimately, like, what do you define as a relationship? So now when I get into spaces with people, like, even though we have great chats and we do all these things, my question is, what do you define as a friendship? What do you define as a relationship? Okay? And then we move from there. Because I'm not going to come in here laying all my cards on the table, doing all these things and being this and, and...
It's like you're a fish out of water.
Yeah.
You kind of find yourself, oh my goodness, I expected there to be this whole ocean.
Yeah.
And you're there in the next moment, the water just recedes, it's gone, and you're like, goodness, I'm gasping for air. And it's honestly one of the worst feelings, because I think, just going back to earlier parts in our journey when it was really, a test of our character, and maybe the people around us weren't as open and receptive, and they were noticing these changes, and they couldn't necessarily relate to us as much as we could relate to them as we used to.
Let's also not forget, I think we were the first in our friend groups to have kids.
Yeah.
And
that already isolates you.
Yeah.
And I think that
then we started a business, then we started really going into the self-development. That was always there, but we started speaking about it and then based our business on that. So it was all of those things. And then what I find is that people become very triggered and think that, now you're judging me and I use things that you're better because you're doing this, or all of these things. And it was never that. And this is why I'm just saying, one of the things that I've also learned within this journey of learning to trust yourself and discernment is to be able to walk away from toxic interactions and relationships where people are benefiting from you being from you being disempowered within yourself. Because watch what happens when you stop trying. Watch what happens when you stop messaging. Watch what happens when you stop calling. Then where does the friendship go? Because I found that most of my friendships actually fell away when I stopped doing all the work. Then again, is that a relationship then? If one person is pulling the weight of it. And you had the same thing happen with
Oh,
you.
if we've had it, Karis,
Because
it's literally been like that for how long?
It's
My
so
goodness.
interesting because it's like, and then it's like, I got to a point where it was like when I was in my meditations and in my relationship with spirit, it was like, okay, cool. I understand that people are going to fall away, and this is like part of this journey is going to be lonely, but like, where are the people that, you know, I always had this intention of, or this vision of, when you do get in touch with when you do feel more in, like, that you've touched that true version of yourself, and that you have like become as you are always becoming.
Yeah.
That those people, like, you'll find your soul tribe, and or not soul tribe, but you'll find those connections.
I think it's like find that community.
Yeah.
That maybe share a similar way of looking at the world.
And I will say, like, I mean, now I feel like we sort of, like, we have, like, we've got our little tribe here, and I love our friends and the community that we do have, but there is still a part of me that's like craving where I don't have to hide, not hide or like censor.
Yeah.
Is it censor? Like,
I think
because I don't feel like I hide. No, actually, I don't.
It's not hiding. I just think you. And I just want to convey this. It's not about maybe expressing elitism or
I don't think we
levels or
must put this
anything like that. It's
I don't think we must put this part in. I feel a bit vulnerable expressing this part. But
no,
yeah.
I don't.
Okay, go.
And this is not being conveyed from a space of trying to express. You know, there's different levels of consciousness or anything like that. I just think. We outgrow one another, and on all of our journeys, if you were to maybe take a moment now and just reflect on your own life and friends that you maybe cannot share the same space, and, you know, reflecting on old moments, that's beautiful, but that's kind of where the relationship started and ended, and that's all that you guys have, just that commonality in time that has been shared. But in recent times, you possibly are just unable to connect to that same level, but there's always this immense gratitude and appreciation for the time that you have shared, and that's where I find myself now. And I miss interacting with people in that space because of just how I see the world differently. And it's not this pessimistic view whatsoever. It's just it is just a thing within me now, as a person who is walking this path and figuring it out as I go along. Just that depth of connection and having a reciprocal reverence in these interactions with other human beings.
Yeah.
Because I don't deem it, when I have a conversation with a person now, it's not, hey man, how are you? I really, really, really do care. I'm not coming from this position of, I just wanted to just connect and catch up. I really want to hear, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And I understand that, you know, anything can happen after this phone call. And I may never hear from you again, or you may never hear from me again. And the gravitas of that, and just that complete presence. And there's very few people that I've been able to share conversations with over the last 2 years, even, I'd like to say, other than clients that are in these spaces, where you sit there and you really see one another.
Yeah.
It's this complete openness, and, you know, like, it's just appreciation of this moment, this time, this space. And I don't think many people think that way, and that there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's just that right now that's becoming more and more of a prerequisite for the connections that I want to have within that inner space. Just people that are holding that sense of presence and awareness of time and energy spent, where it's no longer transactional in that space. It's just, wow, We just get to be with one another and share this space, share this time, connect, share thoughts, share ideas, build, create, imagine, and just embrace, life.
What the world would be like if we all had connections and interactions like that all the time, eh?
Well, that's maybe why.
But, I also think that we might have a skewed perception of things just because of the things that we've walked through. Like, I know a lot of people who come at it with a sense of lightness instead of this sort of like guardedness that I think Nick and I both tend to have with it now.
We did the lightness.
Because I did the lightness.
We did the light. The
I did
lightness
this,
was great.
I did the Bliss Bunny version and the, like, I'm looking at you through rose-tinted glasses, but then I got hurt very badly, very many times. And so now I have the approach of let's wait and see.
So fair, let's wait and see. But what is it that, if you were to now bring this back to the idea of discernment, the beginning of this conversation, what is the discernment that you had to cultivate within yourself to maybe move from a space where there was this skewed, positive, bliss bunny view of people, where yes, you're literally just looking at the best in people,
Sure.
yet you are not taking into account their nature?
So, I mean, this is an interesting one, and I can go at it from a couple of directions. But, I mean, first off, like when you think about the idea of what someone's safe space is, okay, a lot of the times people will be like, oh, you just feel like home, you feel like such a safe space, all of those things. And then what you start experiencing is like this, it's like oh, now the mask has come off, and now I get to see this like Jekyll and Hyde version of you.
Yes.
Okay. And I understand that people are multifaceted, but to see such a complete like opposite of that, once they feel like they are in that safe space, and this is why, again, going back to that thing of like, what does a relationship mean to you? And what is a safe space to you? Because for me, a safe space is where I am the best version of myself. I am the most open. Sure. I'm everything that I like. I'm comfortable and I can stretch out in this space with you. But and maybe I do have bad moments, and like there are things where you will experience the worst of me at times. But I can handle myself enough to know that I can bring myself back. Because this safe space is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be safe for both you and me to be able to interact with each other in whatever values we have set as the foundation for this relationship. And so these are things that have to be discussed before. Like now I'm just like straight up, okay, guys, let's go. Here's my piece of paper. Let's go. I have this. I know it sounds like excessive, but if people don't meet those things, it's not that I'm just going to be like off the list or whatever else, but I know that I have done enough work within myself that like, if someone is not able to meet me in the ways that I'm asking for, then sorry, honey, you got to go, because there are other people and who will meet you in the ways that you have asked for, and who will meet you at the same level of depth and vulnerability and all of those things. Yeah. So don't ever worry that, oh, there's never any people and I'm never going to find my people. Like they're there. Don't worry about that. It's just about you being able to develop that level of discernment and trust within yourself that you can hold yourself in anything, whether those people fall away if they don't like you or whatever else. So back to the discernment aspect of things with what you asked, which was how do you discern, or when we were in those moments, what was it that jumped out that I didn't listen to? I think then we have to go back to what are our core wounds, because all of us have things that are going to come up, especially within relationships. Sure. The easiest life you can live is an isolated life. Yes, it is lonely. But when you are not having friends, when you don't challenge yourself to interact with individuals who don't think the way that you do, when you don't have romantic relationships, when you don't take initiative to like Yeah, when you just stay in the comfort of your own bubble, that is an easy life. It is a comfortable, it is a safe life. And to me, that's not a life. Sorry if you're doing that to yourself, but um, it's just what I believe. We have come here to experience the fullness of this existence in this plane. And it comes with being brave enough to do the things that scare us. And that is being with people, opening and sharing. And our core wounds are things like, for me, with my parents, I have always felt that I have needed to audition for their love or for their approval or for their consent. And I was also taught that I cannot trust my own decisions or to have no discernment. That with anything that I do or that I am, I need to bring it to them, run it past them. They need to double check if it's okay or not. And only then can I either be that or do that or wear that.
So you have to have a filter before your filter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And my nature isn't that. My nature is wild, impulsive. She just does it. And the unlearning process of that was, oh, wow. So I found that within my friendships and stuff, what I do is I would audition for that love. And then I would do everything. Like I show up with all the things, and I would cook and I would clean, and I'll be your friend, and we can listen to all the things, and we can dive into your traumas, and then I will give you all the resources, and I will make things so easy for you so that you can be like, oh wow, Karis is such a good person and she's such a good friend. And then I stopped doing that shit because that shit was fucking exhausting.
That's horrible.
And then what I found was that people are still going to, how do I say this? People are people, and it doesn't make them bad. It just makes them people. And this is why we need to ultimately have discernment within ourselves, because your spirit, your intuition will always tell you whether or not this is a person that is going to accept and love you as you are opening and blossoming, or is this the person that is going to want to yank you out while your roots are still busy growing, or put that pesticide and poison on you, you know? So
I think, just to maybe flip that on, my answer to that question right now, it's very simple. It's just, is this person here to build or to break?
yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I start with that.
Oh, yeah.
And even though I said a little bit earlier, I'm looking for that depth and that presence. That's I think where my own desire or ideal, or we could even say skewed perception, where I question that and say, look, connection is connection.
Yeah.
And there'll be various ways of how that connection transpires. Sometimes it will feel catalytic, sometimes it'll feel catatonic, sometimes it'll feel easy, sometimes it'll feel fiery, sometimes there'll be a little bit of friction, and then eventually it makes sense.
Or you'll just have a micro connection, and that's it.
And you know what? It doesn't make any of them any better or worse, greater or poorer than the other.
Yep.
Each and every single one is an integral part of your experience and that person's experience. And be it that whatever role that you may play in their story and vice versa, just being at peace with that. And if you're going there with an open heart, with setting the best intention, no matter what type of interaction it is, and being firm within those boundaries and knowing, you'll feel it. You'll know when you've maybe moved into a space where that conversation, it's not a conversation that you would maybe bring up with that specific person, or it's not you get that, it's like haptic feedback in your body.
There's a cellular thing that happens within us. It's like, this is why somatic knowing and learning to understand your body on a somatic level is spiritual awareness on the deepest level, because that is your spirit speaking through your body on a cellular level, and you can feel that, like you said. And I also wanted to say, because I tussled with that for a bit, it's not about whether or not you are an authentic person or not. It's just with different people, you're going to have different degrees of intimacy, and that's fine.
And different parts of you are going to feel more comfortable to be expressed.
Sure.
Different aspects, different parts of your nature, because that's what's been brought up. It's like if you look at every single connection that you have with a different person, it's a different chemical and energetic composition.
Yeah.
Something, it's very unique. It's different.
But this is also why, like, I think bringing it back to learning to trust yourself and discernment within relationships and friendships is also like understanding your reactions on a somatic level, on a body level, is just as important as those concepts, because that is your spirit speaking through your body as you are going on this journey of awareness within relationships and your own mind and the stories that live there.
So if you were to break this into a short process for someone to take home with after this conversation today, let's say Mandy is in a position in her life right now where she's had a lot of great friends, and a lot of them. All right, so Mandy, and this is an apology from the get-go if your name is Mandy. It can be Mandy or Andy. So let's say you are in a position where you have connected to a lot of people, or you've had a couple of good friendships, and you find that you are maybe just on a different page, possibly even in a different book. And things just aren't feeling the same. There is this sense of aloneness. Maybe you feel isolated. Maybe in recent times you've maybe had some very poor interactions with people where you've opened up and you've been hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, that vulnerability angle.
Yes, it is that vulnerable. You're vulnerable. You're a raw nerve. You've basically gotten to the point where you're just giving up with connecting with people. You just want time on your own. Where would you start in that process of just cultivating that trust, awareness, and I'd say even healing from those interactions and getting to the point where you're willing to explore connection again outside of yourself?
Shame. Firstly, Mandy, shame. No, I think coming back to, again, just being aware of what your core wounds are is very, it's a good place to start, because you're going to know what are the things that are your biggest triggers, and where they come from. And so when you do find yourself acting from that point, it's not a thing of judgment, you know. We are people who are wired up for connection. And when we get to that space of loneliness, sometimes we do desperate things to connect and to be seen, and that's fine. I think I would just give Mandy the invitation to give herself grace. So sometimes, like, it doesn't matter what someone says. You need to live through these things and like learn as you go along. And that's the only way that you really learn these things and have it click in your system and in your body. But it's about cultivating that awareness in your body, because it's always
So how
going
do you
to
do that?
taking a deep breath. And you know that little niggle that speaks to you, and you can't put your finger on it, and it's like there's just something that is just not right, or just not sitting right with this person.
Trust the niggle.
Trust it and run. That's your spirit speaking to you.
So trust and run. So if you get a niggle, just turn around, trust it, and just run.
Yeah, then when you get a message from that person, just be like, you know what, I'm going to be busy
Drop
for
your
the
phone
next...
and run.
I'm going to be busy for the next 5 to 10 years. I'll see you on the flip side, G. No, but like genuinely, you don't have to ghost someone, but just say, look, I don't think that...
Assert a boundary.
Yeah, you can have a boundary, or you can just let it fizzle away, or whatever you align with. But at the end of the day, your relationships should, like, they are sacred, and you should treat them as such, because that is you trusting other people to hold these like parts of you in like intimacy, and that is the whole point of a relationship. But having great relationships comes with discernment and learning to trust yourself, because you can only go as far as people People can only go as far as they've gone within themselves.
Exactly.
And I think if you share the bigger values and whatever else, then it makes an amazing recipe. But what is it for you? What is your recipe? What do you want to tell Mandy?
Mandy, run. Honestly, it is really a feeling, and you'll get it. If you think of that person's name, you'll get a sensation of it. And
Feedback.
Feedback.
It is feedback.
It's a feedback loop. But, I think if you flip the script, and you're to look at yourself and say, am I able to be a custodian of this friendship? Am I able to do my part? Does that feel within my power? Or am I overreaching? Am I wanting something? Am I maybe in the position where I'm wanting to take? Am I in the position where I'm wanting to give? And it's really looking at it from the other side, and not just maybe the other person is, not wanting this transactional relationship, and they this freely giving soul, and you're the one that finds themselves taking more often than not, and maybe doing what you don't want to be done to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's recognizing that and just being able to say to yourself, hey, do I actually have the capacity to facilitate this and to put the effort in and to connect and to explore and to grow and to share space with this person? And maybe you actually don't. And that's where you can not only honor yourself, but honor that person. And again, set that boundary. And so I'd say swing it both ways. Yeah. Not just, what feeling am I getting from that sense, but also questioning, am I really putting my best foot forward within the context of what this connection is? And how is that person receiving me? And it's both ways. No matter what side of the seesaw you're on, or scale that you're on, if it's imbalanced, both parties are going to feel it.
Sure. And it's so interesting because a lot of the times these relationships will actually mirror to you what you are actually feeling within yourself, or what's going on an internal level. And so if you think about people as mirrors to your own relationship with yourself, then it's really an opportunity to do deeper work and become more intimate within that. And so that's just the invitation. Yeah. And ultimately this is your story, and if you don't like it, then you have an opportunity to rewrite it and to shift it and change it. And to add and remove the characters that are supporting you as the protagonist of your story. NPCs. Hello there. Oh, good. I feel like we need to have another conversation about NPCs on TikTok at the moment. Should I have a whole conversation like this? You could do it on your own. Oh my gosh. No. But thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us this evening or morning or wherever you are in the world. And I hope that you're able to just take a breath, really feel into your system, and look at the people that are in your life and really question if you're adding value to them. If they're adding value to you. Are you building or breaking? Yeah. And your circle may be able to get bigger or maybe a little bit smaller, but all in all, it'll be for the benefit of you. Yep. Which is for the benefit of the whole. So trust that. Have a beautiful day.